Professor Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, who has been spearheading the educational sector in India on higher educational institutes. I mean, he represents, his a synonym is higher education institutes. And he has been a professor of mechanical engineering in IIT Guwahati and also in IISc, Indian Institute of Science. He has got his doctorate, and more recently, the Mahatma Gandhi Award for the Leadership. That's I would like to mention among the various awards that he has got. And the last, very important, very related to open access, that the language translation is one of the main impediments for the open access. And AICTE, his institute, has been spearheading what is called as an artificial intelligence program for language translation. And that is what will be useful for UNESCO for artificial intelligence translation. And you may not require an interpreter or translators at all. And in fact, I intend to talk about AICTE as an AI is an artificial intelligence, and the CTE is a Council of Technical Education. Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajendra Shende. And I was very carefully listening to Dr. Bhanu Yupen, program specialist from UNESCO France. He raised several issues, and that ABCD is very inspiring. Providing access, bridging the gap, capacity building, and finally dissemination. And just I recollected, he was talking about Web 2.0 and Science 2.0. But in fact, this science is probably not 2.0, much more. Where science started way back thousands of years ago in India, that is Bharat, in the form of Vedas and Upanishads, and was taught in Gurukulas and the universities which were established. And it was never to be closed access at all. Knowledge was always for dissemination. And we have a very famous term called Vidya Dana. That means we donate Vidya, that is the knowledge. And it is not meant for keeping with oneself. And that's why whatever research we do, we will have to distribute it, give access to everyone, assimilate it, understand it, and then disseminate it. And that is very, very important for all of us to understand. And I'm going to hear later Professor Joe Thomas from Australia, who is the convener of Institute of Health Management, National Coordinator from Australia. And certainly health sector is one which was badly affected during the COVID times in the last 1.5 years. And that's why how on one side climate change and the awareness of sustainable development goals and the open access. Outwardly, they appear to be three different topics, but there is strong connect. And you said that 10 out of 17 goals are directly, I'd say, why 10? All 17 of them have direct or indirect relationship with climate change for education, and therefore this UNESCO's open access to knowledge and data through smart cloud campus networks of universities is very, very significant and important. As far as AICT is concerned, Dr. Shende already mentioned that we are working together on what is known as net zero, not zero. Now, we have been talking about carbon neutrality for quite some time. There are a lot of best practices. And even our Prime Minister, when during the COP26, did mention that by 2070, we will be net zero, not just zero. And we all are aware of the temperature rise that is happening. And if we go beyond 2 degrees centigrade of temperature rise, it would be not retractable. And that's why this is urgent need for all the countries of the world. And I'm very happy and delighted that two countries, India and Maldives are associated. Citizens from these two countries who are attending this particular workshop on climate neutrality. There are 2 more to follow, but these are 2 significant. And in the beginning, the numbers were being rolled out by Dr. Bhanu. One is very massive in size, that is India. The per million population number of researchers may be less, but the sheer numbers are so large that we will be able to contribute effectively in terms of sustainable development goals, in terms of UNESCO's plan of open access. Although the journals which are in open access are less than 100 today, We need to have more than thousands of them for dissemination of all this information which is gathered as innovation and research from our institutions and universities. As far as the Maldives is concerned, per million may be large, but overall numbers themselves appear to be too small. But what is important is it is not the numbers, whether small or large, but the commitment which these two countries have shown towards maintaining the sustainable development of the planet, how we will make use of renewables in terms of energy, how carbon neutrality is achieved. That commitment is more important than the numbers. And I'm very happy you talked about the intellectual property also. Even though the journals and the research papers are made open access, intellectual property remains. I remember all our courses on MOOC, massive online open courses, they are all available free. They are under Creative Commons license. So you can make use of them wherever you require, but give due credit to the persons who have created them. I think as simple a policy as that. And I'm sure under this umbrella of UNESCO, we have been forging ahead in order to create sharing of first awareness material. We want that entire population of the world, 7 billion plus, must be fully aware of the material that is available in terms of sustainable development goals, the mission of the UN, how different countries are participating, how open access is important, and then engaging the youth is very important. All universities and colleges, we want them to take oath on carbon neutrality, that they will not spoil the planet. In fact, they will improve the size of the planet the way it is before they leave this world. And that not zero but net zero philosophy is important. And for that, measurement of all the parameters were important. That's why the Smart Campus Cloud Network is very, very useful for all of us. Then we need to conduct a lot of awareness sessions, be it in terms of lectures, in terms of workshops, even a MOOC course itself about SDG and about open access. We need to create, and all those knowledgeable people can put together one unit and make a 3-credit course which can be offered to all the university students across the globe. And then encouraging educational institutions to adopt this 3-credit course as a mandatory course for students to understand. And it's not just for science students, not for technology students. It is as important for students of economics, because when we start talking about the goals of SDG, everyone gets affected. And at one side, we certainly need development, and therefore gross development, GDP increase is all what most of the governments look at, but improvement in the gross development product, GDP, not with against SDG. That is a very important principle. And that's why whether it is economics, sociology, all of them also need to understand that. And Dr. Rajendra Shende rightly pointed out about the activities of AICTE in terms of creating an AI-based translation tool which translates material which is available in English right now into 12 Indian languages. And they are all nearly 75 to 80% accuracy. We have also developed a tool for further correcting it to 100% by way of integrating it with the experts in the field, both in the knowledge of that particular domain as well as the language domain. They sit together and then edit the contents so that 75-80% content will become 100% accurate, all done online. And this is amazing. The tool is so user-friendly that the persons who are translating or correcting will get access to that for a keyboard where they can edit wherever required, or they can speak out in that language and it creates the text material. You can copy and paste at the relevant location and edit it. This will empower all the citizens in all languages in India in order to learn what is happening in the scientific field, how SDG is important. And I'm sure this tool can be further developed once you have a directory of language, a lot of vocabulary of different languages. The same AI technique can be used to other languages as well. I think that is where we stand. And about 50% of the carbon which is emitted already has to be reduced. And that's a big task ahead of all of us. And I'm sure Terre Policy Center, led by Dr. Rajendra Shende, the lessons learned from Dr. Bhanu, Professor Joe Thomas, we will take them into account. And as far as AICTE is concerned, we will try to implement in right earnest to achieve the goals that are set for us. Thank you. Namaskar.